Denise, you're muted and we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Welcome again. I just wanted to tell you guys, welcome again. Good morning. Welcome to Accounting Recruiters Day at Robinson. If you are new, it would be wonderful if we could go around and introduce, but there are 36 firms here this morning. So I don't know that we'll have time to do that, but when you do speak, if you're asking a question or giving some input, if you could just give your name and your title and your organization, that would be great. So what I'm going to do first is go through the agenda for today. We anticipate finishing maybe a little bit before 12 or right at 12 o'clock. So we will be here from 10 to 12 today. So you're going to see a series of slides, and really, if you're not aware, the purpose of this is to give our accounting recruiters an opportunity to share wins, misses with us, for us to discuss the academic year, what on-campus recruiting was like. Any type of information that you want to share with us, please do. We're going to also share with you what's coming up for the fall. We're going to discuss that. We have questions that you all have submitted ahead of time. Marielle is going to go through those. We're going to discuss those as well. This is very interactive. So just wanted to share that with you. So first, we're going to talk about the Georgia State by numbers. It'll be myself and also my colleague, Lauren McDowell, the Director of Graduate Career Advancement. Then the Path to 150 CPA, SLP Fair, Accounting Boot Camp, MTAX, Accounting, well, it's the AAAT Showcase. That's the Accounting, Audit, Advisory, and Tax Showcase. And then the Fall Career Expo, Fall Recruiting in general. We're going to talk about that, and that will be Lynn Comer-Jones, Director of the Master of Taxation, and then Dylan Mitchell, who is the Officer of Membership for our student organization, NABA, the National Association of Black Accountants. Then we'll have a 5-minute break, and from the 5-minute break, we're going to go into fall recruiting and what you can expect for fall recruiting, and that would be Wanda Rayner. She is a graduate employer relations specialist. And then after that, it's the future of the accounting industry and next steps. That's really where we start asking you guys about the future of the accounting industry. And I'll be discussing next steps after today. So that's it for today. So we wanted to share with you guys as well, when you're engaged in accounting recruiting at Robinson, I am technically the lead person. However, I'm only one person. So you guys will be talking to several different individuals, and all of which, with the exception of the director of the School of Accountancy, and I'm not sure if Casey's here. Casey, are you here? Okay. Yeah, this director of the School of Accountancy and Casey Potts is not here. But originally I was going to go around and ask everybody to introduce themselves, but it's listed here. You see them on the screen and where they fall. But if you don't and you can't remember, it's all good. You can just reach out to me. That's the purpose of me being the lead person. You just reach out to me and either I'll answer your question or help you or connect you with the person that can connect you. And let me just mention, we have a new director of the School of Accountancy. He hasn't started yet. He starts on July 1st. Is that right, Lynn? Okay. Yes, he starts on July 1st. Peter Demergian. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, but we're excited to welcome him and also to introduce him to you all. You all will see him at the AAAT Showcase in September. Okay, and next up, we're going to go into my colleague, and she's going to talk about the accounting degree programs first, and then Georgia State by the numbers, Lauren McDowell.
Thank you, Denise. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren, and I am the relatively new director of our Graduate Career Advancement Center. So Denise and her team handle all employer relations and student preparation at the undergrad level. We have the graduate level on my team, but accounting is a special place where we especially overlap because of all the things you know about the 150 degrees and other credit hours and other variables. I joined in August. And I came from SunTrust, now Truist, where I was one of my roles there was University Relations Manager. My team hired 300 interns and analysts annually from about 40 campuses. Prior to that, I worked in the business school at Georgia Tech with undergraduate business students. So I've been studying student job search behaviors and employer recruiting strategies for about 15 years, and I'm excited to share insights with you. If any of you like pie charts, you are in for a treat in these next few slides. We have so many pie charts to show you. You'll probably want to digest it after today because it's a lot of them. So before I go into the details of the data, I wanted to give you just a few high-level frame of references when it comes to recruiting at Robinson. Few key themes: scale. We are massive, and you'll see that in the numbers. Secondly, diversity. We are a special place for recruiting diversity, and I have a personal story I'll share about that. And then combining those two, we have diversity at scale. And that's one of the really great opportunities about recruiting with us. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But basics here on this slide is our degree programs. We have the full gamut: BBA in accounting. And this is where we have students popping out all 3 graduation semesters. So they are available for recruitment in any semester, but certainly we have the cyclical model that you all like to follow for all of these graduating classes. We have a Flex Master of Professional Accountancy. This is an in-person program as well, graduating students all 3 semesters. Then we have, and that's really, working professionals are great for that, and that's why they go at their own pace and they take variable numbers of credit hours based on their capacity. But then we have a cohort Master of Professional Accountancy, which graduates only in December because they are on a regimented plan, going all at the same pace. And then we have a Master of Taxation, which is newly all online. So that's going to give us some geographic diversity among our students as well. And that has a December graduation. So moving into Georgia State by the numbers, here's where you'll see the scale coming in. This is for the entire university, 53,000 students. Specifically within Robinson, our College of Business, we have about 8,000 students. And of that, about 660 are in the School of Accountancy. So we have got the scale. Moving into the next slide. You can see the distribution here across the levels of degree. We have that early pipelining opportunity with those very early talent development programs that you all are getting more and more into, with a pre-accounting program, about 300 students there. And then currently students who have declared accounting as their bachelor's degree, about 400 students. And then certainly, as with all of our programs, we have a smaller population at the graduate level, but you can see here across our master's degrees, mentioned that professional accountancy, flex and cohort, the Master of Taxation program. And then in our MBA program, we do have an accounting concentration. So if any of you have roles where you're wanting that broad business ability and understanding, but with a specialization in accounting, we have that at the MBA level. So here's where you feast your eyes on a lot of pie charts. So here, I want to tell a personal story here from my time at SunTrust. And if you dig into these charts, you'll see how this story came to be. But I know this is a lot of data to take in, but we are diverse, and we are diverse at scale. And at SunTrust, we were recruiting for 9 early talent programs. Audit was one of them. And we, of course, tried our diversity recruiting strategy at all 40 universities from which we recruited. We were heavily invested and very present at the HBCUs. And the only place that our diversity recruiting strategy worked out of all 40 universities, including the HBCUs, was at Georgia State. And I didn't quite fully have my mind wrapped around this at the time, because you all know, so many campuses, so many applicants, so many recs, so many postings, and you're kind of trying all the things and you have a strategy, but it's so busy. I couldn't see it back then. But we just time and time again said, wow, we went after all these top talent candidates. We had an eye for diversity, and our yield every time, our diverse teammates were from Georgia State. And now I know why. I've had some perspective over time, and now hopping over to Georgia State, where I've really wrapped my mind around what our student population is. At many campuses, they have diversity. Every company is going after those same individuals. Of course, the HBCUs are a fantastic place to recruit diverse talent, but they're often small liberal arts colleges with a small sliver of students really interested in business. So all of the students who would have the accounting credentials that you're looking for already have 12 job offers, because all the companies have that same strategy to be invested in the HBCUs, which is wonderful. But not all companies can yield talent from there. But at Georgia State, every single time we got top students, and they were diverse. And they joined SunTrust, now Truist, and they were so appreciative and hungry and hardworking. And so I just wanted to tell you that I'm now a part of the Robinson team, and I'm helping spread this story to all of the companies that recruit with us, that I think you can get excited about what you can achieve here from a loyalty, humility, hard work ethic, and then top talent that is also diverse. So here are the pie charts. I'll let you take this in. You may have been staring at it and taking it in now, but we have about even gender diversity at the grad and undergrad level. We are proudly, this is the undergrad slide. You can see that we have 41% Black or African-American students at the undergrad level, and it's just a very nice mixture across all of the other ethnicities. In accounting, you can see good distribution there as well. If you hop to the next slide, please. Here's our graduate population. Similar on gender, we have a little bit higher international student population at the graduate level, but 73% US citizens. And you can see the distributions in other categories as well. But at the graduate level, we are proudly 48% historically excluded populations. So that's a brief story about our numbers, our programs, and what it's like to recruit and what you can expect to get out of our students. Going on to the next slide. And I'm turning it over to Christopher, who is a really new member of Denise's team on our undergrad staff. So Christopher, take it away.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Anderson, and I am a career and employee relations specialist. I'm specifically with our undergraduate accounting students. This is my first month at GSU. I'm just now ending it, so it's been a great time thus far. But I'm going to be sharing some engagement numbers just based on some prior events that we had this past semester and also last semester. And then we'll also kind of talk about context and how we can cooperate and partner together to hopefully increase our engagement. So the first little chart you see here is for our accounting, audit, and advisory tax showcase. This is one of our signature events that we do on a yearly basis with our accounting students. So we had a good turnout in fall 21. We had about 130 students. We also had a summer leadership program fair in this current semester, which we had about 53 students. And then we also had an accounting boot camp showcase this past fall semester where we had about 55 students attend. And so we'll go on to the next page. Thank you. And so this slide shows all of our participation numbers for events that were managed by our School of Accounting Club, and also that we partnered with other employers here in the Robinson Undergraduate Career Center. So in total, we reached about 485 students. But again, this is a combination of accounting club events and the events that we manage exclusively through Robinson and with employer partners. And so this next slide still shows some of the same events from the previous slide, but these events are exclusively events that we did as a Robinson Career Center staff in collaboration with other employer partners. So as you see, we had about 485 students combined for all types of events, but for our events, we only had about 123. So even though I wasn't a part of those events, one conclusion I came away with is that our School of Accounting Club is number one, a great organization, but that's also where we found the most participation. So working with you all, as I will be, definitely going to start partnering more with our accounting club and other student organizations to, number one, yield more participation, but then also this is another way for you all to build strong relationships and hopefully build pipelines with these students, because usually students in these organizations are, number one, highly engaged, they're very serious, they're very committed, and also these are usually going to be our higher performing students as well. All right. Thank you. And so I'll let Denise talk about these events. These are some of the same events I just talked about from the School of Accounting Club, but she'll be able to add a little more context about the participation.
Sure. Thank you, Christopher. I just wanted to mention, yes, the Accounting Club has been pretty successful. For you all that have been here for a while, you know that this started a few years ago, right before the pandemic. We started the Accounting Club, and they had in-person events. And the idea is that every spring and fall, there's 4 professional meetings. And in those meetings, if you all have participated, any of you have participated, they'll have accounting firms. It might be Big 4 one day, it might be industry, or it might be both. There may be CPA review organizations that are there, along with our in-house CPA expert that's imparting knowledge on how to get to 150. There's different types of professional development sessions in those 4 sessions a semester. I can tell you that with the new director of the School of Accountancy, Peter, I'm not sure of the future of the Accounting Club. Like I said, this was something that was created in 2019 by our previous director. I'm not sure what direction they're going to go in with this, but even if they don't, you all will still partner with the Career Advancement Center, and we can do the professional meetings ourselves. So it's not, even if we don't have an accounting club, we can do it. But we just wanted to show you what these accounting club meetings looked like and how many students attended this past fall, and what the titles of each one, like the public, that's the public accounting networking one. And then it'll say which firms were there and how many students attended, 38. And I'm gonna be honest with you, 38 with that many firms, that's not enough to me. I feel like that, not to say that the accounting club wasn't effective, but we were in a state of transition in the fall and the spring, and maybe these events weren't marketed as much as they could have been. So yeah, careers in internal audit, careers in government accounting. I think Natasha did that from the Georgia Department of Audits, and then corporate accounting. Marielle, can you go to the second slide? And these are the spring events. So the spring events look a little bit more different just in that, because you all know, most of you focus your recruiting efforts in the fall. And so in the spring, we kind of use that as development, professional development, career development for the students. So that's where we are. And like I said, we're going to do our best to market this, whether it is the accounting club or it's the CAC, where we partner with you firms or a firm. We're going to do our best to market to get more students there. I think that it's possible. I know that the person that we weren't, I can tell you with the accounting club, the Career Advancement Center didn't collaborate to produce these events with the person that is in, I think she was on the graduate side, Winnie. A lot of you know Winnie. However, if we do collaborate, then the way that we will market, of course, it would be social media, email blasts. We have a weekly student newsletter, so we'll get the students there. Okay, and now I would like to turn it over to Karen Martucci, who will introduce our next speaker for the next slide.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Martucci. I'm Career and Employment Relations Specialist for the graduate program and the students therein. I'd like to introduce, for those of you who haven't met her yet, Dr. Lynn Como-Jones. Lynn has been at Robinson about as long as I have. It's coming on 4 years now, Lynn. And Lynn comes to Robinson with a background in Big Four public accounting, in Fortune 500 financial services, as well as sole proprietorship. And she's also been faculty and adjunct faculty at several different institutions, I think somewhere around 5 or 6, if I'm correct, Lynn. And we're thrilled to have Lynn as our director of the Master of Taxation program. The program's been a real strong one for us. The students are very impressive, and Lynn does a great job of communicating with those students and helping them understand the opportunities that you all present to them. So Lynn?
Thank you so much for that, Karen. And thank you, Marielle, for sharing the screen. And I believe that we're ready to roll. Okay, great. So again, thank you, everybody, and welcome. Feel free to take pictures of the slides. I will share these with Denise and Marielle afterwards. If you want a copy, then I'm perfectly fine with that. So the other thing to note about me, in addition to being a professional, before I entered higher education, my PhD is from Georgia State. So I'm also an alum and have a heart for our diversity at the university. And what I decided to do was to also provide a little information at the department level, as well as for the MTAX. So the first few slides relate to the department level information, and then the remainder will relate to the MTAX. So as we've mentioned, we have a new School of Accountancy director, Peter, who begins on July 1st. The executive committee, which is comprised of me, Dr. Galen Sevchek, who's also on the call, and our program director for the MPA, and our program directors for the BBA, Dr. Siva Nathan, who's at another conference today, and then our doctoral program director, Matt DeAngelis. And so executive committee, we're already having conversations about our priorities or our perceived priorities for the School of Accountancy. And so we will be meeting with Peter soon to embark on that. Relative to enrollment, so we've seen a lot of data so far. I wanted to share the admission statistics at the end of April. So last year, you can see the distribution among the 3 graduate programs, and then this year, the distribution. So there has been a decrease. You know, this is completely anecdotal and completely Lynn's opinion, but this is year 26 for me in higher ed. So I will have to say that in times of economic crises, usually enrollment increases. So I think the uptick in 21 and then what we're seeing in 22 is that we've, you know, now passed over the bubble relative to COVID. So, but the other thing is that we do have a trend nationally, which I'm sure that our recruiter population feels this as well, where we have that decreasing enrollment. And, you know, so what is it that we as academics can do as well as the firms? And again, this is pretty much Lynn's opinion. So I won't necessarily say this is the opinion of all my colleagues, although I think some of my colleagues share similar concerns. So, what can we do to rebrand accounting to make it more attractive to our students? And, again, I have a heart for it because I was a professional before I was an academic. And for me personally, I'm very excited about the space now because of all the analytics that's going on. And so, I think that's something that we need to market better to particularly our pre-accounting majors about the various opportunities that they have in accounting now. We've had some discussions internally about a dual degree program, so we can expedite students through or their opportunities. For example, I've had some preliminary discussions with our law school relative to the MTAX. And then we've got the CPA evolution that's coming up that is going to have the 3 certification areas within the exam. And, personally, I think it can go either way. So this, has the potential to attract students to accounting and particularly to graduate programs that are more niche and catered to the 3 certification areas, or it could completely drive students away from accounting. So that is to be determined. Again, we've got new leadership that's coming in, so hopefully we can do some things to attract students to the majors. And then I recently attended a leadership conference within my academic space relative to organizations. And some of the big 4 now are offering curriculum with partner universities to assist students with the certification credit hours so that they'll be prepared for that deeper dive on the exam. Now, relative to the employer side of the coin, this data is from my February 2020 American Taxation Association mid-year meeting. The data was provided by representatives from Brigham Young University and University of Texas at Austin, which is the flagship school for Texas, and it's the #1 accounting program in the US. So you can see over time how accounting salaries have not matched market relative to other disciplines. And our students, this generation, they don't want any additional debt. And they're very myopic about the starting salary. And I just attended a webinar co-hosted by Becker and Robert Half. I think that was yesterday or day before. And, they were talking about time value of money. So, even just a few $1,000s with time value of money makes a huge difference. And I think our students are that smart and they figured that out. So, again, feel free to share this data with your firm. I was involved in, we'll call it one of the Global 8, if you will, event. That way it won't isolate which firm it is. That was, I think, December of 20. And I shared this information with them, and they were not aware of the salary issues. So please, take this back to your firm if you're not cognizant of that. This is older data, but I recently shared Robert Half has its 2022 data available, as does Randstad. And I shared that with my graduate students near the end of this semester. So you, can certainly find that data in the public domain. And then we have also had a contraction in the number of faculty. We were able to make 3 hires in fall of 21. So basically we've had double the contraction in the number of faculty versus the contraction in student enrollment in School of Accountancy. So we are a very lean machine right now. Academic Affairs did approve budget for the college on April 15th, and then any additional hiring is to be determined at this point. CPA pass rates, so that has been on the dean's radar for a while. And, I'm excited about the exam changes for CPA. I think this is going to provide us an opportunity to really talk about our programs and specific course content, perhaps increasing rigor so that students are prepared for the exam, and then hopefully we'll gain some strides relative to the CPA pass rates. Although if you've been following that in the press, I think this last year is the last cycle that is going to be publicly available from NASPA, but it's implied that there will be other ways to obtain that data, but I haven't seen specifically what that is yet. What the tax faculty, both our undergrad and graduate tax faculty, have done relative to CPA evolution. We met late February. We went through the matrix that's available out on the AICPA's website. And I will have to say that we are doing a very good job for coverage already between the undergrad and the MTAX courses. But again, this is where, as recruiters and firms, you know, I think it's going to be essential for students that want to be tax professionals to go through the MTAX program. If they plan to complete that certification in tax, we only have one grad level tax course in our MPA programs. And then as far as students, you know, relative to quality of students, again, I've taught at many places. We've got some really good students at State, and definitely they have drive and thirst and very strong work ethics. But relative to quality, so, you know, it depends on the student, and a multiple set of things can occur, you know, so maybe some of it is intrinsic to our department relative to various faculty. You know, some of us are more challenging than others, and in regards to preparing the students for the exam. Are our students taking too many classes each semester? And they're working. So part of this is financial aid driven. I believe it's in excess of 95% of Georgia State, that's at the university level. Students are eligible for Pell Grants, which those do not have to be repaid. So those are federal funding dollars for need-based students. So they have to take a certain number of classes to get their financial aid, but then on top of that, they're working. So that is a constraint for the students. And then, you know, some of it may be student intrinsic. So are the students coming to class prepared? And I know when I was teaching during the pandemic, it was fairly revealing, teaching online, because you can see a lot more about what students are doing or not doing. And then academic honesty violations. So that was a concern. Well, it's always a concern, but particularly during the pandemic, I had some rather severe cases that emerged. And so I would just encourage recruiters to make sure that you get the official copy of student transcripts, because some of us are also including some information that's going to show up there. So just put that out there for your consumption and choice. Now on to the MTAX. So we paused the MTAX program in fall of 20 because we were transitioning to our fully online delivery. It is a minimum 16-month. Students start in the fall and they finish the following fall or December. So just a little tweak to what was presented earlier. So if the student is on the full-time plan, then they will have a December graduation date. But we prefer to cast ourselves as a flexible cohort. And in that vein, we have students that graduate in other semesters. But I would say the most common semester for graduation for the MTAX is December. So what I'm most excited about, in addition to this online delivery, because now we're not landlocked to Atlanta, is to provide some curriculum that is going to meet the needs of employers. And so I created a tax analytics capstone course in the MTAX. It's students that had been admitted prior to fall 20 took the course in fall 21. And I personally think it was a huge success. And that is the feedback I got from the students. They told me in the class this has been the most helpful course that I've had in the program. So in preparation of that, I want to thank all the Big Four, Grant Thornton and Dixon Hughes Goodman, each of whom I spent time with senior managers or partners talking about what we refer to as tax transformation relative to data analytics. And this course, the focus is on desktop applications. So we are working with visualization, data wrangling, RPA, and we even did a little bit of regression analysis. So for modeling purposes, students got some exposure there. I think one reason the students really love the course is that their final project, they were able to choose on their own, and the purpose was to solve a work problem, something that they were dealing with at the firm. And so the next iteration, I'll probably be adding some text analytics. I'm working on a research project with a colleague at Ole Miss. IBM tells us that about 90% of data is unstructured. So we are looking at qualitative rather than quantitative data in 10K filings. And so I'm very excited about this project and hope to add that to the tax analytics course. We've worked one-on-one with our Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning and Online Education, aka CEAT-LO. And all of our MTAX faculty completed Mastering Online Teaching, MOT, training, and have worked one-on-one with an instructional designer. So those are our faculty members who's teaching what courses, and the asterisk denotes a required course. So we have 7 required courses, and then students can self-select relative to the other 3. And then now, how can your organization participate? So as mentioned earlier, we have a tax only Meet the Firms event that's already scheduled for October 25th. It will be in person in downtown. Our primary audience are undergrad students, and we want you to bring tax professionals to this meeting so our undergrad students can understand what it is that tax professionals do on a day-to-day basis and to get them excited about the profession. Relative to our MTAX students, many of them are still local. So I anticipate that as long as their schedule permits, they'll be participating in the downtown event. But if not, Lauren and I have had some conversations about scheduling some coffees. So if your firm wants to meet specifically with MTAX students, then you can contact Lauren or me, and then we'll try to get something worked out. As well, we've had some conversations about site visits relative to tax technologists. So again, Lauren's been in the conversation. You can reach out to me or her. And scholarship funds. So we do have some scholarship funds that come in to the MTAX program. We're always grateful for that. So if your firm is interested in that, then you can contact me and I'll coordinate you with the appropriate development officer. And then in particular, in the MTAX program, we offer the course Accounting for Income Taxes. And we have an opportunity for our students to actually use one source tax provision, but it's extremely costly. So that would be another way that firms could contribute to support our student population. Then the only other thing I'll mention is that we had, well, 2 things. We had 100% placement of our MTAX students for the last 2 calendar years. So we're very excited about that. And then relative to the numbers for enrollment, we are competing internally relative to our MPA Flex program because the firms hire tax professionals out of that. The MTAX program is about $15,000 more than our MPA Flex. So when you see that the numbers are low in the MTAX, part of that is driven by the price point. So it's not a preference to the program, it's preference to the pocketbook, as I would say. So thank you very much for letting me share that information. And now I think I need to transition to Marielle. She's our undergrad employer relations specialist. So Marielle, thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, for all of that amazing information. So actually, I'm going to toss it over to Dylan Mitchell, who is with NABA, and he's just going to talk a little bit about how to get involved and the ways that you can do that. And so actually, I'm going to put back up on the screen so you can see the different student orgs that we do have. That, and then I'm going to toss it over to Dylan So you see that we have Beta Alpha Psi, we have NABA, and we also have Alpha. And so if you are interested in getting involved with these student organizations, you can just contact me or Denise and we'll get you connected to the faculty advisor, to the student presidents. So you can definitely get involved for the fall semester. So Dylan, I'm going to toss it over to you.
Thanks, Marielle. So I would say one of the easiest ways to connect with NABA is definitely reaching out to the events coordinator and setting up a time and an event to plan with the club. Our events coordinator is currently Shakira. I can drop her email in the chat. But one of the big things NABA is actually focusing on this year is definitely improving attendance. I know with the onset of COVID, it negatively impacted most clubs such as BAP. And when we switched to virtual, most students didn't want to come to campus. So as we're slowly moving back to campus, some students are still stuck in that COVID era and they're at home, they're on their computers and they want to like hop in their car and drive an hour to Atlanta to come to an event. So I would say switching from convenience to like an innate want to come to the events is important, because before you would go to class and then at 6 o'clock, you just walk over to RCB and go to the event, network and learn something. But now it's changing. So I would say focusing on the innate need to go to the event, like something unique about the event that makes students want to attend it. So I encourage recruiters to think of ways to make it unique and fun and interesting for students to definitely increase their attendance. And yeah, there's attendance and increasing our memberships, because I know most of our members are either graduating or they're graduate students that are taking on classes and jobs. So definitely going out to more club fairs and bringing on more freshmen and sophomores to our club. So yeah.
Thank you for that, Dylan. We appreciate it. So right now we actually have a scheduled 5-minute break, but I want to let it be up to the employers if you would like to keep going or you want to take that 5-minute break. So if you want to just drop in the chat, break, no break. So we'll know. And then, because I do sense that we're going to finish early. So you can let us know if you would like to. I'm seeing a lot of keep going. Because it's Friday, I understand. All right. So if we're going to skip our break, I'm actually going to hand this over to my colleague Wanda, and she's going to walk us through the events that are coming up for the fall.
Thanks, Marielle. Hello, everyone. My name is Wanda Rayner, and I'm the Graduate Employee Relations Specialist here at Robinson. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of our upcoming events in the fall. And we do have a host and a variety of events. As you can see here, we're going to have fall and spring career expos. The summer leadership program fair is coming back. We're going to host on-campus interviews, whether on campus or virtual information sessions again. That's by request only. If you want to do a hybrid version, you can do that as well. And if you want to do coffee and conversations, you're able to do that. We will also be hosting corporate site visits, and these events and fairs will be focusing on students to help with their career development. We're going to have about 7 virtual career development workshops in the fall, executive career coaching, and resume review. So those are the areas that we're going to be focusing on. And this will give you an opportunity not only to engage with students, but if you need to create brand awareness at this time, this is a way you can get your foot in the door to get in front of the students, as well as cultivate a relationship with the Robinson Graduate Career Advancement Center team. Next slide. Now, here are events that definitely focus on what you guys are all about. We're going to bring back these events again. They're back by popular demand. Accounting boot camp, that's going to be in August. We're going to have the Accounting Audit Advisory Tax Employer Showcase, which Professor Jones mentioned early. That's going to be Friday, September the 9th. The Business Career and Internship Expo Virtual, that's going to be targeting both undergraduate and graduate students. And the Meet the Firms, that's going to be October the 25th, I'm sorry. So this is just an overview. We will be sending out more details in our calendar once we finalize it over the summer. And right now you can just save the date for any of these events. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Marielle.
Thanks, Wanda. So we had you all submit in questions of things that you would like for us to address, and that is the time right now. If you were not able to submit in a question, no worries. If you want to drop them in the chat, or once we kind of have a pause, if you want to raise your hand, that's probably going to be the easiest. If you would like to actually verbally speak your question. So if you use the raise your hand feature, we really appreciate that. To all of the staff and faculty that are on the call, feel free to jump in to answer these questions. I'm only really facilitating the conversation. I know I'm not going to know all the answers to these questions, so please feel free to hop in. So the first question that we got was, do you track how many of your students go on to sit for the CPA exam? If you do, could you please share their success rate? And I don't know if Lynn or somebody from the School of Accountancy wants to take that question.
Lynn or Galen may know.
So Galen has been tracking the data for several years. Galen, do you want to contribute?
Yeah, I don't have, I'm at home, as you can tell. The booklets, the annual booklets that I have of CPA exam results across the nation, by state, by school, by first-time takers, by overall takers, by undergrad versus graduate students. They cut the data many ways. I don't have that at hand, so I'm going to be just ballparking based on recollection. I would guess that about 60% of our master's students take the CPA exam at some point in time. Now, a difficulty in assessing exact percentages comes with the nature of our program. If we were, I don't know, Georgia or Notre Dame or Wake Forest, where our master's program started in August, and with rare exception, everyone completes the program by the following summer, and they all take the exam that summer, then you have student enrollment aligned with when students are taking exams. That's not what we have at Georgia State. In our flexible MPA program, we have students that have up to 5 years to complete the program. The last time I crunched the numbers, the average duration of the students in the program who complete is closer to 5 semesters. But we have lots of students who complete the program in 3 semesters. I don't know how long Delon is taking to complete the program. My guess is he's on the shorter end than the longer end. But we have some students who take close to 5 years to take the program, to complete the program, and then we don't know when they take the exam because the data we get doesn't align. We never get names of students. And I'll give an anecdotal story. So I just received an email from a student earlier this week who is beginning our MPA program, and she took the FAR part of the CPA exam. And she scored a 42 on it. In other words, she failed it miserably, right? And she wanted to meet with me to create a strategy for her to pass the CPA exam and wanted to know what Georgia State had for her for the CPA exam. But I requested information from her, and she sent me her transcript, and she had completed the undergraduate program 3 years ago and was now taking the CPA exam. I think everyone knows that the best time to take the CPA exam is soon after you graduate. Her GPA in the undergrad program averaged out to 4 C pluses and 3 B minuses. And I think we all know that. I think grades in the program are a good predictor. And she had actually not taken financial statement analysis and the consolidation course when she took the exam. So we have that would be an interesting one. I would have never, I don't know how I align that student with registration data so that I can assess how our students are doing by class or by what percentage of the students are taking the exam. Ballpark guess, at the end of this long talk, ballpark guess, maybe 60% of our students take the CPA exam. The data shows that our master's students at Georgia State do materially better than the undergrad students who will take the exam. And our students at the master's program are passing the exam with overall percentages in the mid 50s, 50 to 60%, depending on the part and depending on the year, where the undergrad students are scoring at lower percentages, as you might expect. I hope that helps. If anyone has any more questions regarding.
I do,
Yeah.
Galen.
Yeah, follow
So explain to me, and this it just might be my ignorance and the firms may know this, but why are the master's level students doing better than the undergraduate students?
Well, they this student that I referred to who, you know, if she had talked to me before she took the exam, I would have said, you should not take the exam at this time. I mean, I would have told her, you need to complete all the coursework for the content on the exam before you take the exam, right? And given that it's been 3 years since you took these courses where you really didn't shine, that are on the CPA exam, I would strongly encourage you maybe even to retake them, or if you can have the self-discipline, you really need to go through that intermediate financial accounting textbook from beginning to end diligently again and review, okay? But our students, with the curriculum that we have at the undergrad level, they get a good dose of what's on the CPA exam, a high percentage, a majority, but there is significant content on the CPA exam that we do not cover until our master's program. So students who take these exams after their undergraduate courses and are successful, my guess is they are the top performing undergraduate students.
The exception.
Yeah, maybe not the exception, but they're getting the good grades, so the content they covered, they know better than other students. Secondly, the grades might be indicators or signals of self-discipline and the ability to learn the content on their own that they haven't covered yet. It is possible. I mean, when I took the CPA exam 100 years ago at the University of Minnesota, I had never taken a business law course. It was just I was an MBA student. That's where I picked up all the courses. I never had business law, but clearly business law was part of the CPA exam. I was able to pass it just by studying it through the review course in the Gleim materials. But some people can do that, some can't. So I'm not at all surprised that master's students do better on the exam than undergrad students. There are a number of reasons why that would be. Any other questions on our exam data? Okay.
All right. So I'll hop on to the next question. And I think with one of these questions, Lynn probably already answered. But with this question, it says, what have you seen be the driving force when students are accepting positions? Is it D&I, salary, benefits, etc.?
Can I try answering this question?
Sure.
And I think Marielle, Keisha, we've all seen this. As it relates to undergraduate students, master's level, Karen and Wanda can speak to that, but undergraduate students benefits, if it's not like remote work at this point because of the pandemic culture, then they're not connected to benefits in that way. For example, I had a visit with Norfolk Southern recently, and they are one of the only very, very few corporations that still have a pension. They have a pension and you can get a 401k. In addition to that, because they're a railroad, the federal government says you don't have to pay Social Security tax if you work for them. To me, 50 something years old, that's a big benefit to me. A 20 something year old undergraduate may not see the value in that. So the undergraduate students have been more driven by salary and D&I more recently, where they will call the corporation out. If they go to your website and it lacks diversity, they will call you out. A lot of them will, and say that, you know, either they'll call you out or they'll come to us and say, you know, I got an offer, but I'm really not sure because when I went to the website, I didn't see anybody that looked like me. You know, so it is really important that you as an organization has a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or culture, equity, and inclusion in your organization, especially because we have such a diverse student population. So yeah, I would say D&I and salary. Keisha, Marielle, what would you guys say about the undergrads?
I would add diversity and inclusion definitely is a big one. I have had conversations with students who, if they walked into a space where it was not diverse, even when they went for their interview, it was already a turnoff for them. So I think the culture is a very important factor when it comes to the decision. But also, I guess now with the new climate that we're in, probably is some form of flexibility in how they will be supported and, you know, things of that nature. So I would definitely add that as a definite contributing factor to what jobs they want and roles they want to, you know, apply for or even accept.
Hi, everyone. This is Lakeisha Hughes. The last thing I would probably add is the mentorship aspect of it. They do miss that aspect a lot. They do speak about that. Just recent students who did actually graduate in the pandemic, just because they are completely working from home, they do feel like they are missing out on the experience of networking and understanding the do's and don'ts to do when in meetings with important people within their division, and they do still want that type of connection. So they are somewhat still missing that, and they are seeking that as well.
Karen, Wanda?
I would add on a just slightly different note for the graduate students coming out of the MPA program, particularly the Flex program, their timing through the academic program is obviously different than for the undergrad. And I believe that they really appreciate when employers indicate that they're flexible in when those students might be available for internships and for full-time positions, because they fall outside of that regular, you know, summer leadership, fall recruiting. And so I think for the vast majority of our graduate students, they would be very pleased with employers who recognize that they're juggling full-time work and possibly families and their classes, and they may not be on the same cycle as the majority of the accounting grads that employers are looking at.
Thanks, Karen. Wanda, you have anything to add?
No, I do not have anything to add.
Okay, Lauren?
You all have hit on so many important things. The one thing I will add, I think, is just how they feel during the process in terms of who they are meeting and what message and vibe they're getting. So everybody wants to feel recruited. Everybody wants to work with people that impress and light them up. And so I think choosing carefully who it is that's on campus, and if that person has really engaging energy, can just make a huge difference in the attraction they feel to different companies.
Yeah. You know, I would like to throw this back to the employers, the recruiters, and ask, you know, with the younger professionals, the recent grads that you have at your firms, your organizations, have they communicated to you what the driving factor was for them to accept the role that they're in? Anybody want to answer that? Kimberly, Tobias.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim from Cape and Krause in Dallas, Texas. I'm a talent acquisition specialist for our company, and I hire recent grads all the way up to senior level. And what I'm finding, because the market is so crazy right now, that they are getting, multiple offers, multiple opportunities. And so, we really have to court our candidates in the recruiting process and create that candidate experience. But one of the things that I keep hearing a lot of is that quality of work-life balance. That the salary certainly is important, and we are competitive with other firms, but to be able to work from home or in a hybrid situation seems to be very popular. They no longer want to commute, an hour to Chicago or some of our other LA locations. And so our company is 80%, of our team works from home. And that was even pre-pandemic. So first of all, I just want to thank all of you because I'm so impressed with how you positioned all of this for us, for me specifically, because, the game has changed as far as recruiting because it's highly competitive. So this is really important. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. This is why we do it. Thanks a lot. Any other employers want to give any input on that question? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jane.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? What firm?
I'm
company are
good.
you with?
Well, I was gonna tag along on the remote challenges, that we're seeing. It's such a balance because we're in a client services sector and we do need some face time in the office. So right now we're doing like a hybrid model. But as we're recruiting for accounting positions, it really has become almost a mandatory with candidates to have some remote work. And so we're faced with how do we find a balance to all that? So that's just something I wanted to add, that I'm also having a challenge there with the remote factor. And really at this point, we're still trying to figure out what to do because we were 100% remote, obviously with COVID. Now we're at hybrid. Now management would love to see us come back full time, but I just don't know that we're ever going to do that again. So,
yeah. Jane, what organization are you with?
So I work for Trident Trust.
Okay.
We do hedge funds and private equity and trust funds. I specifically work in Atlanta in the fund office, and we service our clients, and the clients are all over the world. So, we don't do the traditional accounting. We're definitely catering to the client, and because of that, we have to exceed at our customer service level, and balancing that with employees that want a good work-life balance, but yet, they're having to do transactions at 10 o'clock at night sometimes because that's just the way that the fund happened to be and they have to wire or whatever. So, it's challenging because I also think there's a generational gap, so to speak. And, you have the older generations that have a different work ethic. There's nothing wrong with having a work-life balance. So I don't want to say that, you shouldn't have that, but there's definitely a generational gap there. Like kind of, well, if work doesn't end at 5, so be it, I'll be back in the morning kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's trying to help your employees understand like, hey, the big picture is like, if we don't exceed at this, we don't win,
Yeah.
So it is quite a challenge. So
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
mhm, mhm.
Marielle.
Awesome. I'm gonna actually skip around a little bit for the sake of time and then try to hit some questions that I know we definitely should address. One of them is, what are students taught / told from career services / professors about declining offers, asking for extension / being non-responsive?
Okay. I can answer as it relates to career services, and I would ask if Lynn and Galen could answer as it relates to professors. So we explain to students what exploding offers are. And we, in that, you know, it might be where a student has interned and then they interned that summer, they finished in August, and they want a response by September 15th on whether or not they're going to accept the role either the following May or even 2 years from that. I've seen that before too. A lot of times students don't always come to us, especially when they've made up their minds. And unfortunately, they don't come to us because we think that they've made up their minds and they continue to keep interviewing. And then they get another offer. They've already accepted one offer and then they rescind, which is a big, big problem for Robinson. We don't, because that could potentially hurt the relationship with the organization, which will hurt the relationship with potential students that could come and work for that firm or that organization. So if we can catch it, what we tell them is to ask for an extension. A lot of employers don't want to go past like maybe October, the mid of October, the end of October, but we ask them to ask for at least November 15th. If they can get it, that's a wonderful thing because they're still interviewing. But of course, you know, a lot of organizations want the student to accept their offer. We also ask them to be transparent. If they are entertaining other organizations, we ask them to be transparent and tell whoever that employer that is giving them the offer that I'm very attracted to this organization. However, I have interviewed, I am waiting for this answer. If I could have an extension, that would be great. So, yeah, exactly, Kim. Yeah, and you know, a lot of times, unfortunately, because the students don't come to us, and it's not like a requirement for them to come to us, they do that ghosting, and we don't find out about it until we get a call and email and tell us that these students didn't fulfill their commitment because they ghosted them. But, you know, we do have that written in key areas where we have student development materials. And, you know, we tell it to them when they come to walk-in hours into the office. Lynn, Galen?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. So what I try to do is head this off earlier and encourage students that have the capacity to complete multiple internships. Because at the forefront, firm fit and culture is huge. And for example, we had an MTAX student who completed a Big 4 internship and then went with a large regional firm for an internship and was able to make an informed decision about her permanent employment choice based on those 2 internship experiences. And so again, you know, firm fit and culture are huge. So if you know, I'm just kind of thinking relative to the student. If I were the student and I'd never interned with your organization and you made me an offer, and then I found this other organization that I either perceived had a better fit or culture for me, and or that firm offered me an internship, then I might be more inclined to, you know, make an acceptance to that latter organization. You know, along with Denise, you know, I think transparency is huge and students just need to be upfront and own it, whatever it is. And then when they start talking to me, I just say, well, I don't know how students are handling this. I think you need to go to Career Advancement Center. So I try to route them to Denise and Lauren's team just to see if they can provide any insights.
True. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. That's true, Jane. It's very important for them to communicate. And it's really not, you know, of course, I don't know that the employer would be thinking this, but we have to remember, we do give them respect. They are students, but they're so incredibly young and inexperienced. And a lot of them are scared. They don't communicate, not because they're jerks, it's because they're scared. They don't know what to say. They know that they're rescinding and that kind of thing. And then they don't come to the CAC and they just don't know. But it's still unacceptable. Abigail?
Hey, I just had a quick question. I know that some programs that I recruit at, they have like an accounting 101 class or something in that, under that umbrella. Do you guys offer anything like that? And if so, could this be something that's like discussed or like built into the curriculum? Because I know that as recruiters, I'm sure we're all feeling this. So maybe it's something that we can be proactive about and like try to solve the issue as much as possible.
Yeah, you know, we're really fortunate at Robinson. We have career planning and development in several courses at several stages. So freshmen have a course where we're in it, career. Then sophomores have a course where we're in it. These are required courses. Then there's another required course that every student has to take. And that's typically third and fourth year students. It's business communication. And in that course, once again, we cover this again. So,
wow,
you know, I mean, we try.
Yeah,
believe me, we really try. And then we also offer the programming that we offer in the CAC. We have alumni career tips, and we also have Adulting 101, which we cover that in those two events as well. So we try as much as possible, but you know, of course, we can't reach everybody.
appreciate the effort though. Good to know.
Yes, thank you. Lynn?
Yeah, so a couple of comments. So I'm a first gen student, and I would just ask the recruiters that are recruiting at Georgia State be cognizant of that aspect of our student demographics. So many of our students are first gen. You know, parents aren't educated in higher ed space, you know, probably been blue collar employees. That's the case with both of my parents. You know, so they don't have that institutional knowledge, if you will, regarding these matters. So, you know, certainly we can, you know, try to infuse this more in our conversations with them. But, you know, please keep that in mind as you recruit our students, you know, because they may not know better. I mean, you know, that's just part of the aspect of being a first gen student. And then I know there have been some discussions. This isn't a definitive, and Galen, if I'm remembering incorrectly, please interject. But I believe that we have this entry level course for all College of Business students. I think it's the 1010 course. And we're going to try and warehouse all of the pre-accounting majors into one section. And so maybe part of that curriculum aspect would be to address some of these very important concerns relative to recruiting and professionalism and placement.
Thank you, Lynn. I think this is an important question, and one that unfortunately each fall there's at least, we're not, you know, bombarded with a lot of employers, but there's at least one, at the most 3 employers that reach out, and I've got to talk to them about, you know, that the student has rescinded an offer, and it was basically because of ignorance. They just didn't know. I'm also a first gen, and wait a minute, what did you say? You said also, and sure to include that. That's great. That's great, Brianna. I appreciate that. Any other comments, questions about that question? Marielle?
Okay, I'm gonna skip around a little bit. How far in advance are students expecting a job offer before graduation? And I think we kind of just addressed that a little bit somewhat. So we've already talked about that. Okay, why has the School of Accountancy started gearing students more and more to Big Four and national firms? It seems local firms are not being incorporated into the conversation of opportunities for these students.
I'm gonna let Galen and Lynn answer this, but I wanna say something. This isn't a started thing. I mean, I've been in higher ed almost 15 years. In every single school this happens. Every single school. Faculty, not everyone, but there is a large number of accounting faculty that tell students that Big Four and national firms are the end all, knowing that not every student is going to be able to get into any of those. So we do try to, as much as possible, expose them, make them understand that if it's a corporation, every single one has an accounting department. Maybe Big Four isn't for you. Maybe that's not the culture that you want. But like Lynn was talking about, the culture fit is very important, especially for job satisfaction. Lynn?
Thank you. Yeah, so, I share my personal story with students. I'll date myself now. I was actually hired by one of the big 8. And so my experience, it was my last busy season in Big Four. Well, actually, it was Big 6 then, public accounting. I was on the audit side of the house. I left my townhouse so early in the morning and got home so late at night that the dry cleaner wasn't opened on either end. And my roommate was picking up my dry cleaning and dropping it off for me. But what I do tell students is that, did I enjoy that experience? No. Would I do it again? Absolutely. And here's why, because it's been a meal ticket for me for anything that I have wanted to do. Now, I do warn students about the whole work-life situation. If you're willing to be uncomfortable for a while with the busy season grind, aim high and you can backtrack. But again, I think what the non-Big Four have going for them, just as a word of encouragement to recruiters on the call, is that this generation, and we've heard it earlier today, very much about work-life balance. So I think part of it is the marketing of your firm. And so again, I tell my story to students and I'll say, if you look at some of these other firms, you're going to find there's a better work-life balance. So you need to do your homework. But to the extent that the non-Big Four, and again, this is the Lynn persuasion and perception. So my perception is that the Big Four is the last holdout on work-life balance. So that Becker/Robert Half call there, they mentioned someone there that was working Big Four had a 100-hour week during busy season. I was working about 80 hours a week, my last busy season. So, and I share that with students. So it's a personal choice for the student. And like we said, not every student will be attractive to the Big Four. So, we can do what we can to, facilitate conversations and steer students, to firms that might be a better fit for them. But I also think the firms need to do more conversations and maybe marketing relative to that whole work-life balance aspect. And I think you might get a different response if you do that.
Galen, you have any input on
Yeah,
this?
I want to tie in this question with the previous one regarding some of our students maybe not having the best etiquette regarding interaction with recruiters. It was mentioned that we have a number of touch points during our undergraduate curriculum across the entire college where students should probably be, they've been informed on the right way to interact with recruiters, but some of them, and I've heard anecdotal stories, clearly don't. One thing the School of Accountancy could do that we haven't done, it might be a resource issue, is, for instance, the University of Georgia has a 7-course undergrad curriculum that is pretty much a mirror image of our 7 courses in the undergrad curriculum. A couple of intermediate, a cost, a tax, and auditing, etc. But out in Athens, in addition to that, they have 2 1.5-hour courses required of all accounting majors. In the accounting department, it's called, I think it's called accounting professionalism or something like that. And that's where they can really pound on the accounting students on industry-specific do's and don'ts, and where you could really emphasize how you should be interacting with any recruiters that come to Georgia State or with students to hire accounting students. In addition, in that professionalism course out in Athens, even though they have very high placement into the Big 4 and Big 7, the larger firms, I know that they spend time talking about non-large public accounting firm choices, and whether that would be industry or government not-for-profit or smaller firms. So one thing that we could do, I mean, especially if we had more resources, is considering adding a required course to the undergrad curriculum that might take care of part of that problem. Secondly, the student organizations. We've got the student organizations are there. They're good organizations, but you can't, I don't know, honestly, I don't know why our students, more of our students don't choose to participate in those organizations. And I don't know how you force them to do that.
You know what, Galen?
Yeah.
I'm gonna share, you said that you don't know why. Really, I think it speaks to the Georgia State student. I got my undergrad from here. I can tell you I was very much like the current students in that I worked 3 jobs and I went to school full time. I didn't have time for a student organization. And I think that that's probably a lot of the reason why the students, it's not that they don't want to, they have to make money with that time. Right. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that they're seeing.
Yeah, and you're touching on an interesting issue. A lot of our students work a great deal, and yet but they also want to graduate as fast as they can. Right. So many students, I think, if you talk about a student who is working a lot, you and I might look at their registration and say, you know what, I think why don't you take one less course and free up some more time to do some of these other things? But I think the combination of working and wanting to graduate fast. I mean, I over the years, I've dealt with students who show up who get into GPA trouble. Yeah. And they tell me they've taken a 4-course load and they're working 40 hours a week. Yep. and they've got 2 kids, you know, and you think, well, you should have maybe talked to someone, your advisor. Yeah. That may not have been the best choice. The question regarding an emphasis on the big firms, let's say the Big 4 in the classroom, I'm unaware of there's not a concerted effort to push the Big 4 or the Big 7 in my opinion. I think it probably really depends on the course. For instance, I teach a financial statement analysis course this semester. I had Delon was in my class. He nice job in that final, by the way, Delon. But we focus on our project, and the firms that we discuss are all S&P 500 companies. Of course, they're all audited by the Big 4. If I reference articles from the Wall Street Journal, they will tend to be focused on big firms, which have big auditors. And so in that discussion, in my course, there probably is more discussion of large, when we talk about public accounting firms, the larger ones versus smaller ones. But I don't think it would, I think it varies from course to course. For example, in our managerial accounting course, I don't see why in that course they'd be talking at all about the large firms. They're talking more about management accounting industry type jobs. I'm not sure where in the curriculum there would be a great focus on smaller public accounting firms. So in the courses, there's no there's no systematic push toward public accounting or towards the large firms. At least I don't. And I think the biggest way that we could address this would be through an undergraduate professional accountancy course, similar to what they have in Georgia, and somehow get more of our students more involved with the student organizations. That is where, in a lot of cases, students can be exposed to different size firms and public versus not for profit versus industry, etc.
Thank you, Galen. It's Lynn.
Yeah, thank you. So Galen touched on it, and Jessica actually has a comment in the chat box about the accounting professionalism courses at UGA, which I will kudos to Galen. He is always looking at what other schools are doing with their accounting programs. So he actually brought this to the attention of our executive committee, and I have an idea. Not everyone in School of Accountancy is on board, but I'm certainly going to raise the comment and thought to Peter when he arrives. And that is that we have 3 credit hours for our students, and those are carved out in 1 credit hour courses each. The first would be a bridge course from the undergrad principles curriculum into the accounting major, because I know that I see students that don't understand some fundamental concepts that they should when I see them in grad school. And so that course would ready students for the major. I spent over a decade at University of North Florida in Jacksonville. Student demographic relative to first gen was similar there. We had about 61% transfer students into our university. So we have no control over what is being taught at other places if students are transferring in. And, so this sets the student up for success, and then it makes it easier for those of us that teach in the grad curriculum. Then the other 2 1 credit hour courses would be something similar to what we see at UGA. And that way, some of these ideas about, messaging and getting the information out to students, those courses could be used for that. We could have recruiters come in and talk about these things in those courses, because students are going to listen to you guys, i.e. recruiters, more than they are the faculty member. But again, we just have to get everybody on board in School of Accountancy. So if any of the recruiters on the call advocate something like that, then please reach out to me or Galen. You can do that via email. And we'll be sure to share that email with our new School of Accountancy director.
And I want to say one more thing, and then we can move on, Marielle. With the students, so like I said, there's this class that unfortunately you don't get to take until you're at least a junior, business communication 3950, that has all of this in it. And my team, Lakeisha Hughes, who was on this call earlier, she actually teaches that lab for that class. Every student in Robinson has to take it, with the exception sometimes of transfer students, because they may have taken something similar. But it does seem like that, oh my God, y'all, I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, it's Friday. I just lost it. Let's move on. Marielle. Sorry, y'all.
I want to address this question, and then I think we could be close to wrapping up unless employers have other questions. So this question is, when will GSU start in-person recruiting again? Virtual platforms have not been beneficial for firms with less name recognition. We have several events. Most of our fairs will be in person for the fall semester, with the exception of the Career Expo. Campus is open, so you are more than welcome to do an info session, coffee and conversations. All of those can be in person. They can even be hybrid. So if you would like to do that as well. a lot of our workshops are virtual. However, again, there's so many other ways that you can engage where you will be on campus. So we're open in the fall, all the way.
I got it too, Marielle, but I'll say it after you.
Oh, I'm done. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So what I was gonna say was that, Lynn, we have been much more effective with imparting this career development knowledge on students when we were in person, I have to say. Because when we were teaching in person, Keisha actually had anywhere from 600 to 700 students a semester. That was broken down into 4 classes a semester. And she was actually in person with these, and employers like you guys would come in each class and you would speak on some type of professional development topic. It might be dress for success, it might be negotiating salaries, it could be anything. But in that, because we were in person like that, we had a lot more traffic in the CAC. We had a lot more engagement as well. Now we do have engagement online for our programming, but as it relates to teaching that class, there's really no connection because it's asynchronous. And so we don't have the connection, and we have even more students. I mean, like the last semester, fall semester, we had almost 900 students. That's a wonderful thing to be able as a career center to engage that many students, but because we weren't really in person, it was asynchronous. They just, complete assignments when they can. We didn't have that. So for me, I'm advocating that we go for that particular lab, that we go back in person for that. There are some in the college that would like to keep it virtual, but I'm hoping that we can move back to in person so we can have that kind of engagement with them. Okay.
I believe that Lynn, probably, are you the best contact for this question? Who is the best contact to connect with students to determine CPA eligibility?
I'm reading all the boxes and jotting notes to myself. Excuse me. So relative to CPA eligibility, we just had some conversations within the department, and our interim director is supposed to be sharing this with advising, excuse me. I sat outside in the pollen last night, not a good idea. And so our purview is that we are not qualified to evaluate student transcripts to tell them whether or not they are eligible to sit for the CPA exam. So we will be routing students to NASBA and Georgia Society of CPAs, where they can request to have a transcript review. So as a recruiter, just steer them that way. And then, you get an official word from the state society, whether you're in Georgia or elsewhere. I think this is the best thing to do. Again, I'll use myself as the example. So I was a graduate student at UGA, and I accepted employment with a Big 8 out of my master's program there, but it was in the neighboring state of Florida as opposed to Georgia. Well, Florida has this little extra requirement for business law that was not known when I was at Georgia. And so I ended up having to take an extra class to be eligible to sit for the exam in Florida. Now, granted, this is many decades ago, but still that requirement for B law is in place in Florida, and it is very different from what is required in Georgia. So that way, whether it's us as faculty members, or the recruiters, just send a student to the respective organization to get that official transcript review. And then you have an official answer rather than maybe, we hope situation. And then I see there are several comments relative to smaller firm presence for beta offsite, et cetera. I don't know the answer to why that has not happened. But again, this is something that Galen and I can share with the new school accountancy director and And Denise, I'm gonna have Peter contact you to get this recording so he can
Please.
watch it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's been a lot of good information exchange. So thank you very much to our recruiters who are spending your Friday morning with us.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
so those are my two thoughts relative to that.
And I want to address that why our local firm is no longer being included in Beta Alpha Psi recruiting and accounting club. So accounting club, like I said, it was led by someone who's no longer here. They weren't part of the School of Accountancy, but their relationships that they had with employers were more Big Four. I could tell you that. But I can tell you as it relates to the CAC and when we're doing programming as around accounting for students, what we try to do, because it's really important to us, like I said, that we expose them to industry or corporations, and then we expose them to large accounting firms and also small accounting firms. So when we're producing it, which neither one of these did we produce, it's much more balanced. And we hope to work with Peter the New, if they continues with the accounting club, we hope to work with him and also explain to him that that's what's necessary for what we believe what's necessary for our students, as well as the new Beta Alpha Psi leaders. And then Delon, he's on here and he's NABA. Do you guys, when you do, I have a question for you. So when you produce programming, do you stick to the Big Four or do you add smaller firms and local firms?
Yeah, we have a lot of smaller firms when we do events. It's not mainly Big Four.
Okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Are there any more questions? Any questions you would like to ask that's not on here? Marielle, am I jumping ahead?
So there's a comment in the chat box by Kim about requiring CPA pass. And I don't know if Career Advancement Center has any insights, but it may be that other recruiters have better insights relative to that mandatory passage of the exam situation.
Yeah, I sent her a private message and told her we could talk next week, but it may be that other people are interested as well. It could very much so be that if you're requiring it for undergrads, that could be one of the reasons why it's difficult to recruit from Georgia State in particular. Now, other schools I can't speak to, but Georgia State, even our top students, our best and brightest, they don't have it. And it's really, I mean, this is a negative on our part, but once again, this is something that I am going to push with Peter on, because I have never been to a school that didn't have a 4-1 program in accounting, that didn't have that they could go for 5 years and get their master's degree. And if they did that, then they would have enough hours to sit for the CPA. So that's one of the reasons why that, you know, they would be turned off from it, because they just don't even have enough credits to sit. So, but that could
well, actually,
yeah.
Sorry. So in Georgia,
Yeah.
you only need a bachelor's degree to sit for the exam.
Yes.
So they don't really necessarily
they don't
have
need a master's, but they're not getting enough credit hours
for licensure. It doesn't have anything to do with being able to.
Oh, that's right. For their license. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so Florida actually changed as well. It's a revenue generator is what it is to get the students to sit earlier. Because Florida did a change relative to that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, they can sit, they just can't get licensed. Okay. Yeah. Unless they take more classes. So yeah. Okay, Marielle.
All right. I think for the sake of time, because I want to give some time back to the employers, we can just hop to next steps. And so Denise, I don't know if you want to cover that.
Sure.
And then close us out.
Sure. Yes. Next steps. We talked about it a couple of times on here, but Marielle and Wanda is graduate programming. Marielle is undergraduate. However, You can reach both of them through the general campus recruiting email box listed here. Please take a picture or write it down. That's the best way to communicate with us about programming in general. As it relates to our fall employer engagement calendar, it is done. It will be shared with you all next week. And most of our programming is in Handshake. I know that the AAA Showcase is live in Handshake, and also Expo, the Career Expo is live in Handshake, so you can register for that as well. Everything else will be turned on today because we're done with the calendar, so everything should be able to be turned on today. And then please, please, please complete the Accounting Recruiters Day evaluation. We use your input to modify our behavior if we need to, and we also use it so we can discuss this in 2023, what you said and what we did. Okay, thank you for that. And then we just want to thank you guys. This is an important event for us. This is honestly one of very few events that we do for employers, that it's only for them, and it's an opportunity for them to talk to us and for us to talk to you on a really open, in an open arena. Because, you know, at career fairs, we don't get a chance to talk. When you come for an event, you know, you're running, we're running, we don't get a chance to talk. So this is really our opportunity, but we're always here. You can use the campus recruiting email address. Once again, if you have questions, any other questions or anything else that you want to address, please send it there, and it'll get to whoever you need to send it to. Send it to that email box and we'll forward it to wherever it needs to go. Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great summer, and we will see you in September.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise, and everyone online.
Thank you.